But hell yeah. All right, thanks for joining me, guys. This is definitely enough people to have a good long conversation. I know it's Super Bowl. Honestly, like I'm so in my own world that like I didn't even know the Super Bowl was this Sunday. Like that's how like not like I don't worship like athletes or celebrities or really care about like shit like the Super Bowl anymore. Which sounds like I guess boring or like it's not the most exciting thing to admit, but like I appreciate you guys being here. Like I know it's like a really big day. So thanks for taking the time to be here, and it's gonna be a good time. So we're gonna make the best of it. Um,
Thanks for taking the time to do it, man. Super Bowl can go second hand for all I care. I'd rather be doing this.
that's how I feel too,
Same.
man. That's how I feel too. And like at a certain point, like I stopped caring at all. Like I have zero care about like what political people think or like what most athletes are doing. Like I care a lot about Bare Knuckle and Mike Perry because like obviously like we sponsor him and it's my job to know the goings on of BKFC and MMA and UFC and like that whole realm. But like I probably wouldn't be paying attention to that much either if I wasn't like personally invested in that stuff. And so like I don't watch the Super Bowl anymore. Like I don't watch basketball players. In fact, when CF and I have gone on business trips, we'll stay at like a Four Seasons or like a nice hotel, and those basketball players are always there. And it's funny to watch them just squandering their opportunities. Like a lot of athletes, not all of them. In fact, to be an athlete, you have to be like an exceptional and disciplined person. So I don't want to hate on successful people, but staying in like the nice hotels, like I seen like basketball players right before a big game, like drinking and partying like until 3, 4 in the morning. So just from my experience, like I've learned to see athletes as just regular ass people, just like us. And so yeah, like I'm not big on the Super Bowl. Like I'm not big on worshiping other people. And because of that, I've made a lot of progress on myself. So it's definitely like an extreme stance, because probably because I have a lot of work to do on myself. Um, but that's where I'm at with this shit. So um, I had some notes here. So I wanted to talk about like the progress of the VIP group. Like obviously, it's only been a month, um, and we've got like 60 members, and I wish like the engagement was higher. So obviously, like I have a lot more work to do in bringing in more people and like making this Discord more engaging. I think like as I polish my edge and as I get more plugged in and trading more, my vision for the future of the group is like if we can isolate a period in the markets where there's trending price action, then we all actually hop in here and participate in the markets together. Um, so, for instance, these last couple days of price action would have been a great time for us to like all pop in here like every day. Just even if it's just you and one other guy, just pop in here and see if someone else joins you in the chats because trading these trending markets not alone, I feel like would be very helpful. And I'm gonna like start doing that. Even though I'm not trading because I don't have my like Palau ID and like I can't trade on Bybit quite yet, I actually have to wait for it to be physically mailed to me. Um, I am going to start popping in here and just like sitting in this voice chat. And if anyone wants to join me, you can join me. But I hope to inspire other people to like start doing the same. So that's something that I want to start doing. I talked about the Bybit issues. And another thing I wanted to talk about right off the bat is like how my strategy has changed. So like obviously like a strategy you don't want to change it that often. And yet for the last couple weeks I have been it's not that I've been changing the strategy. I'm still using VWAPs, but I've like learned a lot more about VWAPs and like I understand VWAPs more than I ever did in the ETH bull run of 2021, or even just a month ago. And so just remember that like it's a delicate balance. Like your learning process is never done in trading. You're always going to be learning more, especially if you're hungry for knowledge. Like I'm more hungry for knowledge than ever before, because I have other people listening to me, and and I'm also on the cusp of getting extremely serious about trading like every day. Like I've got the floor treadmill and all this stuff, so it's reinvigorated like a quest for new knowledge. But I've made sure to like not incorporate too many new things. Like I've added the anchored VWAP, and I really dialed in on that one addition to my strategy. Like I bought a book on it by Brian Shannon, and I basically said like I'm gonna use all VWAPs with Market Cipher B, which I feel like isn't too big of a deviation from the original strategy. I think it adds to it. It gives me more trend confirmation bias, because before my trend confirmation was really just coming from Market Cipher B. It was coming from like maybe what the weekly was saying, or like the like a big blue wave or a money flow or something, or just kind of how I was feeling, or like what CF was doing. Whereas now I can confidently say like we're above or below these anchored VWAPs here, and like when we're over all these anchored VWAPs, it's hard to do a short call, right? Because we're in this super bullish like momentum state, and like if you were to have shorted any of these like bear divs during any of this trending market time, like you would have gotten wrecked. So the VWAPs, the anchored VWAP tool has definitely changed the game. And I'm curious, like, what you guys think of the anchored VWAP tool. Like, do you think it was a good addition to my strategy? And do you feel like is it okay that I've changed I haven't changed the strategy, but is it okay that I've like added things to it and like adapted? Like, what do you guys think of the anchored VWAPs?
Yeah, I'll throw my 2 cents in there, man. Yeah, like I love anything that can add to Confluence. So I know I was like trying to get extra the other day with like Bollinger Bands, and you have to do that. But I think that like, but one thing that I'm noticing, I'll just say about the anchored VWAPs is, like what we were chatting about in the trading floor the other day is like when not to trade. So like can look, I'm looking at the chart now on the 15-minute, and I can see from like, I don't know, like the 29th to kind of like the recent breakout, we were between these two anchored VWAPs, and that was just like not a good trading time, at least for
Let me
me.
find that time for you, bro. So okay, so
Yeah.
what was the date?
So basically from like the 29th of January, kind of
Yeah.
like pumped, I guess it kind of pumped up into this like little range between two anchored VWAPs that I have. I think one of them is
Yup.
probably a high, and one of them's probably the year to date. And then it kind of chilled between them until the recent breakout on Wednesday.
It was a
Um,
great breakout. Yeah. Yeah.
and so like it could, one way that I'm seeing, at least for me, is using anchored VWAPs to say like, all right, it's in a range right now. I'm not going to trade VWAP, but when it breaks out above all the ones that I've anchored, now's a great time to look for longs. Or when it breaks below, now's a great time to look for shorts. I don't know. That's something I'm thinking.
That's exactly where I'm at too, man. And it was in that choppy period, that consolidation, that we discovered the anchored VWAP tool and learned more about how to use it. And so, I mean, I'm not gonna apologize about like not applying it 100% correct, because I really just learned a lot about it very recently. But what I learned is exactly what you just said, which is like when we are swiveling around, like for instance, the year to date, let's see. Oh, it was the ETF dump anchor. This is the one that price was like swiveling around. Like the year, or the ETF dump anchor was basically the midline of this consolidation that we had during that sideways period. And so from an ETF dump anchor perspective, it was a bad time to trade because it's indecisive around the anchored VWAP. And it's also encapsulated by the anchor that I placed on January. This was the January 24th bottom, which marks the point where like the bulls kick back online. So I thought that was a relevant anchor point, and you can see how the price action like definitely gave you multiple opportunities to like long from that point. And they weren't great, amazing longs like the longs that we've seen in the recent couple days, but it was a great guide for like the bottom end of the price action. And then the year to date VWAP, that was like the first big VWAP that I started using, and it was this top right here, I believe. It was like this like triple top that we had. It was like that first interaction with it. I was on that trading competition, and like I was saying, like this is like big, steep resistance, and it definitely did dump from that point substantially. And so like the analysis and the way I was talking about the year to date VWAP definitely rang true and aged well. So I think using the anchored VWAPs, like especially big anchored VWAPs, it gives us a way to craft a narrative of what the market is saying, like other indicators don't. And yeah, it allowed us to basically, call this a consolidation or like a sideways point. And it is possible to trade like the intraday strategy in sideways. It's just if you don't get out fast enough, it goes the other way. It's a ranging market, so you have to be a range trader. Whereas like in my edge when I was successful trading the intraday strategy, it was always in a trending market. That's like what I realized is, during bull markets in the past when I used the intraday VWAP, it was always just when the price was going straight up that I was able to do the best with it. And like you could say that, oh well, flopping Groper, like you should just long and forget during those periods, but it's not that simple. Like the intraday VWAP in an uptrend, as you can see here, gives you the exact moments where you should be rebuying in. And so it's not a simple thing of, oh, just buy on the breakout and just hold it. It's like if you're a real day trader, like you do want to, re-enter or add at these points where like it's touching the intraday, and then like take profit at the tiring signs. Like you see, you'll see like a higher high get formed, and then you see that divergence, and it's a great time to take profits. But then it's like, when do you re-enter, and you would re-enter when it's regaining traction over the intraday. And so yeah, it's you could argue that like, oh, just long it and forget, but the intraday does a really good job of being that touchdown point for the market in trending markets. So yeah, Mirka, I know that you were someone who was absolutely like murdering the downtrend side of things. And then once we got stuck in these anchored VWAPs, things got a little choppier, and your success got choppier as well. Like your win rate took a hit and lessons were learned, but those were valuable lessons.
Yeah, and it's hard, when you're like, in hindsight, it's obvious to see we were consolidating. But while it's happening, it's difficult to kind of figure out that that's happening. I look back on like those 2 weeks, and it was like, oh shit, like we're consolidating, and I thought that I just had lost the edge. So I'm trying to figure out like signals I can give myself by looking at different anchored VWAPs, to kind of help me understand the market structure that we're in before, hindsight.
I think that that's definitely going to be a point where our community can grow. And that's going to help us like figure out when we should all be hopping in the chats and working together, right? Because we don't need to be in here every single day wasting each other's time, like just like loitering in the voice chats. Like that's not what I want. I know you guys are busy, like you have your own lives and stuff, but there's points in the market that like demand us to be day traders. And then other points that we can kind of chill and like, do things at our own pace and stuff. And so our ability to isolate trending markets and like come in here and execute on them and like really focus during those couple days that the trending is happening, I think is really important. And then our like the times where things are a little more choppy, it's not like the intraday doesn't work. In fact, isolating a point where there's like an anchor above and below us, I think that Merca, I think trusting that those anchors are going to hold their positions and the price is going to bounce between the two of them. Like that's like you can have that foresight, which I didn't have because I had just learned anchors and I was still learning to trust them. But like if we were at this point here, we have an anchor above us and below us, and so it would make sense that as the price progresses, that these anchors are going to slowly like meet up with each other, and the price is going to it is going to respect them, and it's going to start consolidating.
Mhm.
And using a lot of the things Jason Casper teaches about range trading will help us isolate the range bound periods of price action, which will help with all this stuff too. But for me personally, the sideways action is going to be opportunities for me to like focus on other parts of like running MC, like making ads, like bringing in new people to the VIP, just like other aspects of my life and my job that are very important to me. But when it is trending and it's like day trading time and like the going's hot, I do want to be in here a lot more than I have been. And like I think we could chop it up and like get some really good work done. So how does that sound to you guys?
Sounds great.
I think that'd be awesome,
Great to
man.
me. And I like what you had to say about the whole loitering part, because that would be a big thing, especially for as the group grows. Don't want to waste too much time, but getting it going when the going's hot is a good idea.
Yeah, because
I think I used to find myself. Oh, sorry, man. I was gonna say I used to find myself in the market cipher, like almost loitering, like 3 years ago, man. And it's just like it was a bigger distraction at that point. I think I've gained a lot since then. And knowing what with hindsight now would be used to my advantage, doing something like this going forward.
yeah, the opportunities in the market, like they are sporadic. It's not fluid or consistent. It's inconsistent. Like trading just the crypto markets and not a broad range of markets, which I do want to evolve to a point where I am trading a wider range of markets, but also there are times where all markets are going up and like all the markets are going down. Um, and so trading, I'd say instead of us seeing each other as swing traders or day traders or scalpers or swingers, like the market is just going to provide us certain opportunities, different types of opportunities. Like, it may ask us to be a swing trader. And then there are times where it may ask us to be a day trader for a couple days, like back during the ETF dump. That was such good timing that I started my crew around this time because it was an excellent example of like my edge working in the environment that I succeeded with it in. And so I was grateful for this. But then, like, we had that first meeting. And that first meeting we had was during a sideways day. And I remember telling you guys, like, how I don't really prefer to trade in a sideways VWAP kind of day. And that idea has evolved since a month ago in my mind. Like, not only do I want to avoid intraday sideways action, but I also want to avoid like macro sideways action now too. And I'm better now at discerning when macro sideways action is happening and when it's not, thanks to the knowledge that I've acquired on VWAP. And so, yeah, so this type of price action where we're just running away from the anchors, this implies trending. So this would have been a great time to pop in the voice chats and just start slaying. And I think that's going to improve the participation in the Discord, and that's something that I know needs to happen. Like I can see it. I can see the feedback isn't overt. Like it's not anyone saying like you got to do more, because I think people understand like it's a pretty cheap VIP. I've put out a lot of free knowledge, and like it's definitely like worth like the investment to like be a part of this little group that I made. But also like I'm just not happy with the fact that like it's only just a handful of people at a time that are truly engaged. And so I think I'm taking that feedback to heart. I'm obviously understanding that like there's another level to this, and I'm not comfortable like with where I'm at. Like I definitely feel like I've helped a lot of intermediate traders like in the MC sphere who've been here for years, but there's a way to talk about my strategy and like be involved with the crew that appeals more to like the newer person coming in who doesn't know as much as we do, and that's going to actually allow us to grow. Um, so yeah, I had to get that off my chest because it's been weighing on me, and it's important to me that like we succeed and that we're actually progressing. You know.
I don't know how other people feel about it, but for me, I think engagement, a problem with it is I'm not that confident in my trading. If I was more confident, I would be in there 24/7, calling trades, engaging with people, talking more. I don't know how other people feel in their own abilities, but for me, that's a big one. I thought I'd throw that out there.
I can relate to you there, man. Like, confidence is, I've been doing it for 3 years now, and I still find myself like, second guessing. So that's maybe my lack of why I choose to not really put myself out there as much as I really want to in my head.
Yeah, because you don't want to say the wrong thing to someone, or have someone follow you into some idea that doesn't go right. Like it's like you're understanding that like it's not your responsibility to have other people like being responsible for what other people are thinking. Like if you aren't trusting yourself, why would you want to put those ideas out there type thing? But and I get that. But shining light and being transparent about what we do and don't know, and just being here present, even if we're not trading, if there's trending price action, like we could still congregate and just lay down like fake positions and just like see how things play out. Like there's just more that we could do. And like being honest about like what we know and don't know, off the rip sets like a healthy expectation. And I don't think anyone in this crew expects everyone in here to be like mega profitable and successful at this current time. I think like we've all accepted that we did this to grow, and like we're all like following in the footsteps of giants who made it before we did, and like we're on this quest for knowledge and figuring shit out, and we're getting closer to it. Like so, I think it's important that like you guys are engaged, and I'm gonna lead by example. Like I'm gonna be popping in here more often, and like when the time is right, obviously, and that way like you guys are more comfortable to come in here because like the last thing I would want to do is ask you guys to like show up and be in here working with each other when I'm not even doing that. Like I can't ask you guys to do something that like I'm not doing. So yeah, I'll just lead by example. I'll show up more when the price is trending, when it's far away from anchors. We're not consolidating. I'm gonna be in here, and hopefully that'll help you guys like step forward and gain the confidence to put some ideas out there, lay down some some pretend positions, or lay down some real positions and just see how things go. But like, how do we know how good we are unless we don't put our heads together?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed when I'm in positions with someone else, like even if it's the opposite direction. Like that's happened a couple times. Either I've been in, we've been in the same position, or like one of us went long, one of us went short. But it's like we're seeing different things. It made me look at the charts in a different way, and sometimes we can both be right, right? Like it can kind of bang up, bang down. But I definitely like I don't paper trade at all. Like I always want to put down real positions just because it keeps me actually caring about it. I know that that's not for everyone, but I'm definitely down, to kind of just jump into some positions publicly. Like, obviously profit and logs. The profit logs are great after the fact, but it doesn't always show what the setup was and why someone got in. So, I mean, if people are comfortable just signaling like, hey, I just jumped in at this price, or this is what I'm seeing, like, I'll do that more.
Yeah, we could always get more detail with the profit logs. I think you guys have permission to like post the idea that got you in the trade as well as the actual profit log itself. You feel free to just don't have like meaty conversations in that channel. That way, it's like if I do ever want to show it off, like from a marketing standpoint, like it still looks clean. But I think having the setup, as long as it's like officially presented, like I think that's actually better than what's currently happening in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. Hell yeah. I'm glad you guys are like receptive to us becoming more like a trading desk. Like, cause I have like visions of the future, bro. I have like this idea of like doing like a short reel where I'm like I pull up in like an orange Porsche and like I step out of it and I'm wearing like Matrix glasses and I'm like FG risk manager. You know what I'm saying? And like, but like to get to that point, like I have to actually be present amongst traders who are trading and like be and have to be that person. Like I'm not that person yet, you know. But like having those future visions of like who we imagine ourselves to be and like who we want to be, like that's how we get where we want to be. And so yeah, so I right now I drive a black BMW and I just have my crew that we've just been talking in text chats. But I think that if I want to drive an orange Porsche and wear Matrix glasses and call myself FG Risk Manager, like that asks more of me, right? Like I gotta show up when shit's trending and like demonstrate like this is a time where I would enter on the VWAP, and then this is a time where shit's tiring and I would take profit. So yeah.
I have a question. It's kind of like off topic from where we're going, but it's about Market Cipher B. You mentioned, like, in one of your recent videos, Nick, that like the yellow wave, the yellow oscillator, it's like you're not really calling it vwap anymore because like we're now identifying like what vwap really is. So like what is that yellow oscillator then? Like how I haven't really figured out how to use the MCB VWAP in conjunction with the waves. And like sometimes I almost even turn it off because it's like noise to me.
Yeah, I'll second that. I've actually turned that line off because I find it just noisy and confusing, as well as the RSIs. I've turned both of those off as well.
Hmm. Yeah, this.
I think I've always looked at yellow for like crossing. Every time I see a cross is like a good indicator for me. Obviously, depending on the time frame, but personally, I don't find it noisy. I've always found it to be pretty nice to look at, but that's just me.
Does anyone else have anything to say on the yellow oscillator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I usually call it, at least internally, the convergence oscillator rather than the VWAP oscillator, because to me what it's signaling is that at least in the momentum waves, it's more than one oscillator in the momentum waves. I think there's like 3 or 4, and when they converge all in the same direction, that's when you get the VWAP cross. So
Uh,
yeah, I
So
like it. I think it's pretty.
That's
I
handy to know, actually.
I think I'm pretty sure what so here's the history of like me with Market Cipher B is like I didn't make Market Cipher B. Market Cipher B was something that like my brother and his PineScript editor got together and they created him an edge and like CF said like I want an all-in-one oscillator and like I want like my tools to be condensed so that I can have them all on the chart and not because there was like a 3 indicator limit on TradingView when we started. Like we weren't paying for the VIP TradingView stuff, and so this like was a tool that was handed to me as a new trader who basically was just trading with like Bollinger Bands and chart patterns with 50x leverage. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, and it was like this monumental task for me to like to understand it. But I've always been a great teacher and a very curious person, and so like it led me on like the journey of knowledge and understanding and like back testing it and all these things. And so I called the yellow oscillator VWAP for years because you know what I'm saying. Like that's just what it was. That's what we called it. That's what my brother called it. That's what his engineer called it. But we like MC was made with an air of mystery about it to make it harder to copy, harder to replicate, because CF wanted to protect his strategy from like people imitating and stealing it, which happened. And so by him making this tool a little mysterious, it had a couple upsides. For one, it took people years to copy the entire tool for themselves, and they still haven't fully copied it, like especially the money flow still isn't copied correctly. Um, And then also it's allowed our MC educators and like community leaders like Jason Casper and like all these guys who are like doing MC stuff, they've been able to like make their own strategies and like teach it their own way, which gives them credence and makes them like reputable. So it's like the mysteriousness of it has like had some benefits and drawbacks, but we're at a point now where we've like used MC for so long that like we now know a lot more about indicators than we ever did before as like retail investors. Like I know clearly what a VWAP really is. It's a line that swivels around the candlesticks. That's a blend of price and volume. So it's not an oscillator. And so the yellow VWAP, I'm pretty sure, is some sort of calculation that has to do with the blue waves. I think the yellow oscillator is tied with the blue wave in some way. Perhaps it's the difference between the blue waves, like the white and the blue wave, or it has something to do with it. Because I noticed like when like the blue wave is doing something, usually the yellow oscillator is. Or it may not. And whenever I try to get clarity on this, like it's kind of a pain point for me. So this is like one of the biggest pain points for me as a real VWAP trader is like nailing down like what the yellow oscillator truly is. Like I want to be able to explain that calculation, but I understand like why CF and his guy like have been like wishy-washy about it, because they like CF like doesn't want certain things out there, but I really value the yellow oscillator. I've never hit it. I always use like the crosses over and under the zero line as like a really good, very accurate indication of market direction. It almost does the work that like an entire like blob of or multiple blobs of blue waves will get condensed into like basically a single yellow oscillator cross. And so like I feel like it's a great indication of market direction in like the immediate time frame. And like on the bigger time frames it's also great too. Like you could have a strategy on like the weekly where like imagine if you like longed on this cross over the zero line, and like that was the bottom, you know, and then if you took profits when it crossed down below, that was a great time to take profits. And so the yellow oscillator is a very powerful tool, especially on the larger time frames. Like I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite oscillators actually. Like it's so easy to understand because, and I mean, not only does it diverge like the other oscillators do, like you'll find yellow wave divergences as well, but the crosses are just very accurate. Like especially on like a big time frame like the weekly or maybe even like the 12-hour. Sometimes you'll catch these big yellow waves where like when it crosses up, that was truly like the bottom of a market, and when it crosses back down, that was truly a great time to take profit. So I would recommend that you guys don't hate too hard on the yellow oscillator. Like it does basically what the blue waves do. It's a momentum oscillator that is telling you direction, not necessarily magnitude of a move, but market direction. And I've been trying my best to get clarity on it, but like the communication hasn't been the best. And so, yeah, that's the situation on the yellow oscillator. As for the RSIs, I keep the RSIs because they're a good indication of market strength. When it comes to RSIs, I like to like have aggressive. I don't actually set the lines to these levels. I just intuitively understand them, but I like to use RSI aggressively. Like I have an idea of like the 88 to 92 level, like a very high level, very close to 100. And like if the RSI slips below that after being very high up there, then that's like a similar kind of read to me as like the blue wave crossing below the 60 line. You can definitely, let's see if I can demonstrate this here. Um, So we'll put we'll just put it at 90 and just see how this looks here. And you can backtest it yourself, but when you have like aggressive settings on the RSI, such as like 90 and 10, you'll see that like when the RSI crosses like over 10, like see this point right here, where the RSI crossed over 10, that was the market bottom right there. And then back up here, like when the RSI would cross below 90, that was typically a correction there. So when the RSI begins to tire out from its extremes, that's a really good indication of market strength leaving. So use the RSIs as a gauge of market strength. And that's a way to read the RSIs. That has nothing to do with like using the two of them together. Like there's an RSI and then there's a stochastics here. So there's more to the RSIs than what I just said. But this is like the basic way that I use RSIs. Like I want to see the RSI coming up over around 10 for like confluence on a long, and I want to see the RSI falling below 90 for confluence on a short. So there is value to it. It's another form of confluence. As for, I can't remember what did my brother say? Does anyone remember what he said about like the gap? Like if there's a big gap between the RSIs, that means something. I like forgot what he said on that.
Weakness.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard Trader
yeah,
Geo talk about that. That if there's a big gap between the RSIs, it's a weak move.
Well, it's definitely a divergence,
But
right?
I've looked at that on the charts, and to be honest, a lot of the times I don't see it.
It's definitely a divergence. I think like the RSI moves slower. Like the stochastics tends to pick up the pace and almost like lead the RSI in the dominant direction, I've noticed. The RSI kind of like lags behind. So yeah, sometimes it does diverge greatly. And it's hard for me to like to really agree with that like weak move, strong move when they're together or not. But it is definitely a divergence, like a disagreement between the RSI and the Stokes. Um, so
The
I
biggest thing I've kind of picked up is like the color. Like when it turns green and they're real tight together, I know like especially in the core strategy, your brother will always be like, RSI is nice and tight. You know, like when one of them's green, I'm guessing that's the normal RSI. That usually indicates a pretty big pump.
so
It seems.
The Stokes turns green when the RSI is above the Stokes. So
Oh, that's it.
take the red and green of the Stokes more as what the RSI is saying. So I know that's like hard to understand, but when the purple line is over the Stokes, then the Stokes are green to indicate that like the RSI, which is like the slower moving, more sure oscillator, is leading. Whereas when the
Cool.
Stokes are red, that means the RSI is below them. And so I don't use like the red and green as like short on red, long on green. This is not like a green dot type of like indication or anything like that. The red is just saying the RSIs are below the Stokes, and the green is saying that the RSI is above the Stokes. And I think that when they're together, that would imply confluence, and I feel like that would imply not a stronger move, but just more confluence. So I would like to see them tightening up toward a bottom, and you see that here. You see like once they meet together, we had a nice little bottom here down here, and then so they meet together, and then they cross up over 10, and boom, you got your market bottom. Let's see. There's a lot of points where like we cross below 90 up here. That's why I like to have aggressive settings, because when you set it any lower than 90, it gets a little like choppy. So I like to be like very picky with the RSI. Like if I'm gonna be using the RSIs to get a read on market strength, like I wanna see like immense strength failing on either the bullish or bearish side, if that makes sense.
What settings do you use for your RSIs?
What do you mean? Like when I actually go into like the
Yeah, like in the inputs or in this, like, can you adjust what they are, or they just default for you?
they're just default
Oh, okay.
here.
Okay, cool. Oh, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, but you could set like one of these trigger levels, like at 90, one at 90 and one at 10, if you wanted to have like an actual line there, like helping you gauge the RSIs. I just kind of use my intuition. Like I see the RSIs falling down from that super high level, and that just like I just need to eyeball it. I don't need an actual line there. I would much rather have the default lines at the 60 line, because that is historically like when the blue waves differentiate between normal ranging price action and like runaway train price action. Like I love that 60 line for the blue waves. For instance, like you could see that like once we pass over the 60 threshold on this big wave here, that was like right here. You see how like the market like pumped harder and faster than it ever previously did before. And then when it slipped back below the 60 line, that was like when we had the top there and when the market had lost steam. So I like my 60 and negative 60 lines. Um, but yeah, hopefully that gives you guys a little more clarity on the lesser used oscillators of Market Cipher B.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I love the RSI. It, like you said, Market Cipher has like this mystique to it, and the RSI is one of those oscillators that, or maybe it's not an oscillator, it's an RSI, but it's very not well explained in our community in general. So I've spent a lot of time studying it, and I think it's a very good indicator. In fact, I think it's a good indicator for magnitude. If you take, for
Mm-hmm.
example, the most on your screen right now on the 12-hour,
Mm-hmm.
the most recent RSI is gapped, but to the upside. So the stochastic is below the purple line, but it's got this large gap. And what I
Mm-hmm.
notice is when you have this divergence between the two, whether it's up or down, sure, a lot of the times it can be seen as a sign of current weakness, but those RSIs have to meet equilibrium. They always will, and they either meet equilibrium by the stochastic meeting it, or by the RSI going to the stochastic. It has to go one or two ways, and
Mm.
usually that is a very volatile reaction.
Yeah.
So you can see how it played out right there, where your crosshair is.
I
Where
completely see what you're saying. Yeah. No,
yeah,
you're right. When there's a divergence, there's always a reckoning, right? Yeah, you're totally right on that. It's a brilliant observation. If you do ever see a gap, it's probably evidence that some sort of reckoning is happening. Yeah, and it's hard for me to discern whether it's bullish or bearish, and then the green and red thing does kind of throw it off. But just read the green and red as RSI is above or below the Stokes. That's all that's about. And then since it is an oscillator, you said it's not an oscillator. It is an oscillator. It's just there's oscillators that gauge volume, like MFI. There's oscillators that gauge momentum, like the blue and yellow waves, and then there's oscillators that gauge strength, like RSI. Um,
okay.
so, um, yeah, I feel like that was a pretty comprehensive, like, explanation, and I'm gonna be using the RSI, like, like these things that I said about it. I think it's a worthy addition to the oscillator. It doesn't, confuse anything for me. It's just another thing to like I know a lot of YouTubers like the first thing they do in their tutorials is like turn it off, because CF himself doesn't really use it that much. But I feel like that's just a lack of like our tutorials explaining them. So we gotta do a better job of highlighting the uses of RSI for sure. That's definitely going to be a goal of mine this year, is breaking down MCB in a way that like has never really been done before. Because personally, I don't like when a YouTuber talks about MC in a way that isn't complete, and I think CF is definitely guilty of that. Um, like he, for instance, the way he would talk about Cipher SR is like, I don't use SR at all, and so, like hundreds of or like thousands of people just they want to do what he's doing because his edge is a winning edge, so they would learn basic strategy but they would say, "Oh, screw Market Cipher SR, like I'm not even going to touch that thing." Whereas I've taken Market Cipher SR and like done great things with it. So yeah, be mindful that YouTubers will like remove certain things or change certain things about Market Cipher because like they have their edge and like and they have every right to do that. Like we all are crafting our own strategies using MC. It's a comprehensive indicator package. It's not; these are not like strategies that have to where you have to use every aspect of them. It was designed to just be like a grocery list of amazing tools that you can pull from and add things yourself and make your own edge and then build your own community and your own business and all that stuff off of. So use MC as a springboard to craft your own edge and like do everything that you can do with that, you know, like trade with it successfully, share it with other people, teach other people, market it. You know, it's a whole springboard to start like your trading career with. But yeah, I'd just say like, you know, take it with a grain of salt when a YouTuber like says to just remove this aspect of the tool just because it doesn't work for them. You know, it might work for you. And I definitely appreciate the questions about it. It's giving me more clarity as to like what I need to talk about when I explain it in my own like Nick Cipher videos that I do on this shit. So thank you.
Definitely, I can relate. I honestly I never used SR like strictly because CF just shut it down, and I went off basic strategy. So it's something I'd like to probably implement more in my going forward. So definitely look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, you know, CF's basic strategy is killer. He's done such amazing things with it, and he's like an old dog, you know, locked in his ways. So it's why would you expect a man who's made millions with his edge to deviate from it whatsoever, you know? So yeah, but that's always been my role, is to shed light on this mysterious tool and like answer like those important questions in a way that like even CF can't. And that's always been my role for MC. And I've definitely embraced like the job that I have as like, you know, like the other guy like behind MC. It's my role to shed light on this stuff. So like I feel like this largely falls on me. Not because it should have, but because it has. And like a lot of times in life, like responsibilities are thrust upon you, and you may like avoid or like run from those responsibilities for a long time because you feel like maybe you don't have the knowledge or the strength or the power to truly like deliver on what that job entails, whether it's like fatherhood or like a, you know, anything, like any kind of responsibility. But I've grown a lot in the like my 6 years of trading, and you know, this meeting as well is helping me to remember that like I know a lot more about this stuff than I give myself credit for, and it's up to me to etch this stuff in stone for the common man. Like I need to do a better job of like just laying it all out there, and I've been working on it. I've been putting videos out like every day, every other day, laying shit down slowly but surely. So yeah, just keep rooting me on, and I'm gonna lay it down.
Yeah, man, I think it's fucking great. When you first released your video, I mean, just like putting yourself out there in general, it's something that is a big fear for me to do myself. So I mean, I have so much appreciation for what you're doing, and like it's helping me build my confidence to do the same thing. Like this year, I went out to Vegas and just went by myself to do a convention out there, and like pushed myself to go out of my comfort zone. And I can see like the similarity to that, like with what you're doing, and I think it's excellent, man. It's motivating for myself to want to take it to the next level. So I truly appreciate that. I can't say it enough.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that and being so receptive of me coming back. To like the fact that you guys are welcoming and there isn't like I don't sense any animosity of like where have you been or like what the fuck, like why weren't things explained sooner? Like this is a duty that was thrust on me at a young age, and like I had to learn how to grow into this. Like this is a really advanced tool that would be used by like top level firms and institutions and people with like college degrees in this shit. And like me and CF are just like slob regular guys. Like we came from like regular industries, regular people. Like our family, we grew up with a lot of like success. Like our dad was a great businessman, owned many restaurants and did a lot of great things. He was also adventurous. Like when all his brothers were doctors, and our dad was the only one who diverged and moved away from his family and like went into completely other industries like restaurants, and our dad's basically done like 20 different careers. Like our dad's just has a long life of just being like I guess like a cowboy, I guess, like diverging from a convention because both his brothers were doctors. And they both passed away, and like my dad's still around. We're lucky to have him still. So I learned a lot about taking new things on and it was at around my age. I'm about to be 30. It was around my age that our dad like left his home and moved to where we are now and started a new life. And this is also around the age where CF became CF. So like there's something in our family where at around this age, like the value engines click on and that ambition sparks and like your desire to like conquer the world like clicks on. And yeah, like I it's not going anywhere. It's not like a fire that I feel is reducing. It's only like growing in strength. And like I just really appreciate you guys like being welcoming me back in a big way and like just being patient with me and shit while I figure all this out and I guess it's like a rediscovery, like sometimes like you'll have something amazing in your grasp, and it's like impossible for you to appreciate what it truly is until you step away from it and then are able to come back to it, or like until your capacity grows to be able to wield it. Like there are swords that are too big for like a pencil neck to wield, but that doesn't make that sword like not like an amazing sword to carry into battle. It's just the pencil neck has to get stronger. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so I'm in this journey like with you guys. I'm not like above you. I'm not like preaching down to you. I'm like a student of MC with you guys, and I think that adds a lot to like my likability and like my like your guys' ability to connect with me and my story, because I'm one of the flopping gropers like with you. Like I'm the original flopping groper. Like I've never fucking lied about that. I've always been honest about that shit.
No, it's Nick, it's dope. Just like having being along for the ride of you, like discovering where like both you're placing it, but also the strategy, like this edge. Like a lot of times, you're going to a Discord or someone posts video on YouTube, and it's like they have it all figured out, and it's like oh, if you just do this, and like that. And then you go and do it yourself and it doesn't work. Or sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But it's frustrating. It makes it seem like it's so easy. Whereas this, like, there's an art to it. I like that you're bringing the art to it.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if like I'm making trading seem too difficult, like because I'm someone who like a lot of the things that I'm talking about and my motivation, it doesn't even just come from trading. It's like my duty to market Cipher and my family and like who I have to be for like the software and like for the community. And so that is all like very difficult for me to wade through and figure out. It's like bigger than trading for me. And so like, you know, sometimes I have this very like serious, very like trading is like super hard, kind of like I talk about like having tears of duty and shit. Like I'm not saying that you have to like cry to succeed at trading. You know what I'm saying? Like I do think anyone could learn how to trade, and like the way my brother marketed MC as like anyone can do it is really important, because you know like how else do you inspire someone to learn something amazing if you don't tell them like you can do this too, bro, you know? And so take my motivation and like my seriousness of like the gravity of like, you know, how like serious everything is, that's like my life, you know? But I know that if you apply that level of dedication to trading and like your own lives, like you'll start to figure shit out like I have been, you know? Um, so yeah.
I feel that 100%. It's like shedding new skin. It's strange feeling to get into, but like you know when the duty's like there, like yeah, all right, let's get up and go, and like there's no looking back, man. It's I don't know, it's so hard for me to put into like words of how relatable it seems to be for me where you're at.
I think trading is definitely a war. It's a war of like information, but it can manifest into like a spiritual war, like especially when you're dealing with big losses. Like it's common knowledge that like trading is at least an information war, if not a spiritual war and a psychological war and all these things. And like there's a lot of lessons learned in war that have to do with trading. And um uncoincidentally, a lot of traders in our group are like ex-military guys. I don't know if you noticed that, but like a lot of the guys that trade, trading is one of the toughest businesses out there, and like it attracts some pretty metal personalities, like guys who've been off and done service and like have seen some crazy shit, and then they'll come into trading and like be struggling with trading. It's like they've done these heroic acts in real life, and then trading will put them on their ass. And so trading is definitely a war. Like we're definitely you know, the sense of duty of it all, you know, the heroic aspect. I think it's important that we see ourselves as heroes for even attempting this shit, because like this is a job or a path that is so difficult, or it can be at least. Some people have the easy road, you know, but other people's have the hard road. But everything balances out, right? Like the man who takes the harder path, if he sticks with that path, like his payoff is so much more, and it's so much more earned and more deserved and more like deeply grounded than the man who came into trading and just simply made it. I actually would rather, I guess like when I'm at the end of this journey, I'm gonna look back and be like, you know, I'm glad I didn't figure shit out too quick, and I didn't get rich too quick, because like by being humbled by the markets and like having my losses and like going to war and like, you know, seeing brothers be lost and like um just all the shit that I've, you know, been through and seen, and then what's happened to my life, like where like my personal life tanked at times because of my like unhealthy relationship with the computer and stuff. Like these were all tough things for me to work through, and yet here I am, stronger than I've ever been, like with a portfolio bigger than it's ever been, um, like hungrier than ever. So like all the things that have happened are just tests, making you stronger. And like that guy who has the quick and easy path, um, like think about some kid who, you know, made $1 million on some shit coin. That's objectively great. Like if someone said here's $1 million, like there's no bad in that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always good to get, you know, a free $1 million. Like I'm not going to sit here and say that you know, that's a bad thing, but also there's something to be said about like the faster you earn something, the less you appreciate it, the less like replicable that process was. And so bubbling up like the mole people in your trading career it forces you to like to come at it from a broad-based perspective. Like I've come back to trading from a number of angles as a community leader, a teacher, offering multiple services to others in lieu of like getting to the point where I can trade again. Thinking about it from an investor and a trader, like there's just so many angles that I'm hitting. Whereas that's the result of my experience in the field. And like I've built this deep wisdom and this deep pool of knowledge that is like giving value to me from like a number of angles. Whereas someone who just got rich quick, they have their little edge that worked for them, but it might not be replicable. They might not be able to do it again, and they may not appreciate like what they have or even fully understand like what they learned. Like they might forget things or whatever. Whereas 6 years into your trading journey, like things are pretty rock solid. Notice the price. So we had the golden retracement. We just tapped off the golden retrace on Bitcoin, and it's like under the vwap now. So I'm curious how this plays out. Let me redraw that golden retrace. But yeah, like it don't feel bad about like the fact that you guys have been doing this for years and you're not uber rich. Like you're growing something like seriously powerful by like staying at this for a long time. I know I feel it like in my heart. I'm sure you guys do too.
It'd be nice if there was some sort of international market cipher training center that you could all go to and live there for 2 weeks and just learn it in depth,
Dude,
Go make it, bro.
I thought about that shit, man. Yeah, man. I told my brother like just host an event and like I mentioned it and then he came up with the details of it, but we haven't acted on it. But he was talking about like doing something in Mexico and like charging enough to like you get a good deal on like the rooms, like a bulk deal on the rooms and stuff. Charge like a few grand or whatever to like fly everyone out and house everyone and like yeah, like you have like a meetup, like those Bali meetups and shit. But it's us. It's like our community. Like, we're in this for life. You guys are like lifetime members. So there's like we are gonna keep growing as a company. And I love dude, I've been having visions of all of this becoming real. Like that was a big part of like my fitness journey was like touching grass and like being a real person, if that makes sense. Like it is all gonna get real. And yeah, I think I even had a vision of like riding up to Jason Casper's homestead on like a horse, and like meeting him one day. You know what I mean?
I hope you record that if it ever comes true, man.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I have really cool like ideas of like ads and reels with Jason. Like I imagine like like you have him on his walking treadmill, and then like other traders start like you see other traders on walking treadmills like congregating around him and like walking with him, and in like the sky in the background is like Klaus Schwab and Elizabeth Warren and like all the enemies of crypto and shit, and you see all these flopping gropers like torpedoing in and like because it's a war, right? Trading is a war, so like you see all these people like rushing in and like dying, but it's the traders who are like walking towards success that end up winning. And yeah, like I had like that funny ass like idea of like Jason Casper leading that charge. One day I do want to like do some cool work with him like that because he's done so much for our community, like filling the gaps of the education and like inspiring people. So I think he does deserve that, to be elevated like that. But that's a long ways off. Like I still need to grow a lot more to get to the point where as a person like I can fly around and like make crazy shit happen. Like I'm not like situated enough to like have a camera crew and like have the situation of this VIP under wraps where I've got educators and like it's a self-sustaining system. And like, there's just so many ways that I have to grow to get to a point where I can make things like that happen, such as like meetups and actually like meeting and interacting with our MC educators. But I have visions of that shit. Like I think about that stuff often.
Yeah, I'm a part of like a, I don't know, they call it Good Life Gang, but that's how I ended up going out to Vegas this year. It was like they had a cannabis convention out there, and then like the gang had a basically rented out an Airbnb, and like we all would meet up at the house at certain times, but then be able to go to like convention, hours, side hours. But it was really great, man. It was really like nice to get to have one-on-ones with people, to just have that face to face with others that are sharing the same thing. It turns into a really really tight knit community, and it can turn that way really quick. I've been a part of the gang now for 7 years, 6 years, and I have a lifetime membership with them. But it just has opened so many more doors and so many more things for me. Just sticking to it and stick to the grind. So all in all, I think it'd be a really great thing to see come to fruition.
Yeah, dude. Man, I know it's taken a long time, but I want to get there, man. I think Market Cipher is like a good enough tool where it deserves that. Like, like I feel like if I fail at this somehow, it's definitely my fault. Like, it's not the fault of vwap or Market Cipher B. Like, I think Market Cipher B deserves that. It deserves like a company and a community around it that's doing that kind of shit. Definitely, 100%. More than other groups of people who are using their less effective tools, in my opinion. And they treat themselves super seriously. Like, we've always been a more laid back company, but I'm not as much of a laid back person anymore. Like, I definitely see myself as like a hardworking person. Like, it's made me impossible to date in the last like year and a half. Like, no one works as hard as I do anymore. Like, it's hard for me to even give regular like lazy people in my life that I've known. Like, it's hard to even give them the time of my time anymore because I'm just like cooking all the time. So I've been growing my capacity to get to that point one day. And yeah, like I totally agree, bro. Like, I'd love to meet you guys one day, and make it real. But I want to talk about the price action here. I want to talk about the fact that we've come up to this golden pocket area, and the two main ideas that I have are that one is that we have that trumpet pattern um, on like the 12-hour to the daily. Um, it's a pattern that has higher highs and lower lows, so it indicates price discovery, and volatility, and people on both sides of the market getting wiped out. And there's a reason to assume that like this trend would continue, because yes, it's a very like obvious short opportunity where we are at now. But if there can be a few market participants who could pump this up like another 8% or something to the top of this trumpet pattern, that would wipe out all of the shorters at the current level, um, like all the shorts currently. And that's the power of a trumpet pattern. Is like, think about what happened here at the bottom, where like when we had that bottom, like on like January 24th, this was the bottom. You see like the taps of support that we had before, and you would think that this right here was the long right here, like this wick right here, but it was not. There was an over correction, and price doesn't lie. Like, it's not like that move was a lie. Like, price is the truth. Price is what's really happening. Price is king. Price is the final arbiter. But this was definitely like an overshoot where a few market participants continued the trend, and they were like the last of the Mohicans, basically. And what that was able to do is push out a lot of regular traders who are just trading that bottom there, and then allowed the big movers to come in and scoop up that opportunity. And so that could happen with something like this. Like we could get a little bit of play where we're kind of stuck at this level for a while, and then this could scoop up. And it may not get all the way to the top, but it might get close. It might even just wick up there for a second and then come right back down. But you know, I would say that like the fact that this has pumped up so fast, it's definitely like an unhealthy like pump. Like you would think that there would be some sort of, if we did go all the way up to the trumpet, you would think it would correct from that point, and not just like continue past the trumpet and just keep pumping. But there's a chance that that might happen. But I mean, and we have to keep a long bias because we're over these big anchors. So like that is a possibility. But we are at a, like we're hitting our heads on like a textbook short opportunity. So I would say we could get a couple days of like little silly little meaningless candles that that cause you to stop looking at the charts, if that makes sense. And then like you get the move up and like the bears are wrecked, and then the real short happens, or it never happens at all because we're so high above these anchors. So what do you guys think about like that sort of hypothesis? Like I'm just keeping a long bias because we're over the anchors. I'm recognizing that we're at some heavy resistance, but that the overall pattern would suggest that like the bears get disrupted and dissatisfied time and time again.
Yeah, I still got a long bias too.
And within the trumpet pattern, kind of where you drew that horizontal line, is inverse head and shoulders as well. That has mostly already played out.
You talking
But
about this shit right here?
yeah,
Yeah, that definitely, I would say that probably played out. Looks like about the length of from the head to the neckline did play out. It's amazing pattern trade. Goes to show like chart patterns. That's really all I use is I use our market cipher B, VWAP, AVWAP, and then Fibonacci, trend lines and chart patterns. That's pretty much like, I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but that's pretty much all I use for my TA. I've kept things pretty simple for myself. But yeah, I think chart patterns are valid, not standalone. Like chart patterns only have like 60% accuracy or some stupid shit like that. It's like 50-50. It's like you don't know if it's going to work. It's like, oh, great, thanks. But if, you know, you're getting like the trending, like if you break out over these AVWAPs, it's like, oh shit, that head and shoulders all of a sudden looks really legit, you know? So yeah.
confluence to the pattern. I like it.
What are your thoughts on ETH right now?
Let's take a look at ETH. You know, I haven't truly been looking at ETH that frequently. My eyes been on Link, Link and Bitcoin, just from a personal standpoint. But on ETH, let's see.
On ETH, it's not even close to the 618 yet. Like the macro, like that's, well, it's like $1,000 away from that, but it's, you know, it's a different story.
It is. Yeah, this would imply that, you know, if Bitcoin and Link are like leading ETH, that ETH has a lot of upside here. This is a lot of upside.
Wow.
We're talking a 33% move here, folks. This is a
Right.
and
Significant.
ETH has been out of the spotlight. There's been a lot of trash on ETH that it's, you know, the fees are high. Like we use Tron Tether over ETH Tether because like the fees on the Ethereum network are so high. And that there's reasons why ETH is lagged behind other coins. But does that mean that ETH is going anywhere? That it's not still like the biggest platform for dApps and all that shit? It would probably have fucking pumped faster if Vitalik Buterin like went to the gym but he's just content with being like a Mandark and like being this dinosaur. He looks like Stephen Hawking, but like Stephen Hawking looked like Stephen Hawking because he was crippled. Like Vitalik just looks like him just because he wants to, you know. So yeah, Vitalik's definitely a nerd. Like I'm always gonna remember that. I'm always gonna remember he was like on stage and like some supermodel girl was like interviewing him and he was just laughing like like on stage, and I was like, damn bro, ETH has a long way to go. Even though ETH was like what brought me to my current position, like ETH was like all like I was trading ETH more than anything else, accepting ETH from people for consultations. Like I loved and I still love ETH. It's just sad that like the fees are high and like there are other techs emerging and
Suffering from success.
for sure. But there is a window of opportunity here just from a trader standpoint. Even though like my deep-seated love for the coin has fallen, it doesn't mean that the price can't fill this gap here. So yeah, man, thanks for like reminding me and bringing this to my attention. I think there's definitely some upside here, and maybe it says something about the overall markets in general that maybe there's some more upside. Like this kind of says that maybe Bitcoin could like go to the top of its trumpet because ETH has a lot of room to go to hit the 618. So let me look at the ETH BTC chart.
Yeah, I find ETH's price action a little bit more forgiving. I don't know if that's the right word, but like it's just a little bit more fluid to day trade than BTC for me. Like BTC just kind of has like a whole lot more fuckery. It almost seems like with the wicks and whatnot. Not that ETH doesn't, but I don't know. It trends almost better, at least in my experience than Bitcoin does.
I always loved trading ETH. I like
Yeah, it's great.
the moves felt more impactful. It did feel smoother. Like whenever I would trade something else, my win rate would go down. Like ETH is definitely a fun and effective like asset to trade for sure. I want to do some anchored VWAP stuff on this ETH BTC chart. So maybe we'll put an anchor. Let's just see like what happens. We'll put one at that bottom there from 2019. We'll put an anchor at the top here from December 21 of our ETH BTC relationship. Yeah, it looks like it's definitely swiveling in a zone. This is Merca. This is that shit that you hate, bro.
Well, on the macro it is, but if you zoom in, it's
Yeah, this is like on a weekly scale, So
yeah.
so this implies, like that on a macro scale, like ETH and BTC are kind of like ebbing and flowing a little. On the daily, I guess we could put one over here at the high. You can see how we came up and kind of soft rejected off that point. Put one at the bottom. Oh, look at that. If you put one at the bottom of the uptrend, you can see that we disrupted what should have been a healthy uptrend to the upside. We actually fell through that and are rejecting. So we got some work to do for ETH to prove itself, but it does have that gap in price to fill. So ETH may have maybe like ETH has a run when Bitcoin does not, and this does like recover itself, but we can't make that conjecture randomly. We would have to see that. We would have to see this retake the anchor from January 24, in my opinion, before getting super bullish on ETH over Bitcoin. So
one thing, and this is just kind of nice. So if you go to like the hourly, there's a trumpet that I drew that started right around like December 11th. No, not ETH BTC, just like ETH USDT.
got you.
Yeah. Yes. Zoom out a little bit more. Maybe maybe that's not the best frequency to look at it. I'm zoomed out so I can see it the whole month of December. Yeah.
Okay. I see the trumpet. Are you talking about
Yeah.
this right here? Like this?
Up high. So if you go up to that high, like, so that's breaking. If you bring that trumpet up there, and then the down one below that, the trumpet that goes to the upside meets the macro 618 like mid March or end of March.
Mm. I see what you're saying. Got you. So we got the 618. We got a long ways to come up. If we were to expand this out, we would get a more upward sloping trumpet that would play out into March. I see what you're saying there. So even though the money flow is like pouring down on the daily, we might get a little clipping. ETH might have a long ways to go, but we would expect for the ETH BTC chart to regain that anchor, and then we would expect ETH to pump up to its golden retrace by March.
It would be sick. I mean, if you go onto the weekly of the ETH USDT, like it looks like we're showing a green dot, and the yellow oscillators just broke through.
I do see that. Yep. Even though we crossed under the 60, we see a reemergence. The blue wave turned around on us. The yellow oscillator crossed, gave us a good bullish indication. There's definitely, it's because of this big candle that we just had.
Mm-hmm.
The RSIs pick back up. They're not particularly squeezed together and like super strong, but they are ascending.
So would you say we need a blue wave to get over the 60 to see some real strength? Is that a fair read?
I would say so, because historically, like look what happens when it's good to wait and pick markets that where the blue waves are going over the 60 line on the macro. Like if we look at times in the past where ETH went past its 60 thresholds, I was like right here, you catch this massive move to the downside when we fall below 60, and then the entire ETH bull run, we had periods where we were over the 60 line, and that was when the majority of the big moves happened. So if this does play out, I would say like we got to think like maybe a move or two ahead on ETH. Like keep watching it. But if the macro, like this weekly momentum, goes back over 60, and we can break some like I guess like medium term resistance here, we would look for that play up to the golden retrace, and that would align with things happening in like mid March, like about a month from now.
Cool.
Yeah. Right now,
Or we go down.
well, yeah, right now it's there's some things about it that are a little. It's like you have like the money flow is green, but a little bit of divergence. Like on the 4 hour, the blue waves have fallen below.
Yeah.
On the weekly, it's not runaway train mode. It's just like some regular ebbing and flowing over. It looks kind of just overbought. Like when it's banging its head on the 60 line, it kind of just reads as like, we're just overbought. But if it goes over the 60 line, it's like, oh shit, it's going to the moon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not completely sold on ETH just yet in like the short to medium term, but I definitely see like something's cooking. Something's for sure cooking on ETH. Does anyone want to look at anything else? Any other charts?
You said you're looking at Link a lot. I want to see what you're interested in.
Yeah.
So
What's caught your eye?
well, I have a bit of a bias on Link, not gonna lie, because it was the summer. I didn't have many plays in 2023, only a handful of trades and only a handful of swaps. And the biggest swap I made was in June. I swapped about 8 grand of ETH for 8 grand of Link, and that was the best time to do that. Look up the Link ETH chart. Let's see. How the hell do I fucking... What the fuck is the ticker for that shit?
Maybe WETH for wrapped ether. Because usually when you swap, it's like wrapped link or wrapped ETH.
I don't know why I'm spacing. Wouldn't it just be ETH link? Like,
Check.
I think Link ETH. No? I don't know, man.
I was just looking at this chart the other day too. You know, is it because I'm looking at DEX or? Oh, here we go. Okay, I had some shit checked that I should not have had checked. We'll just look at the Binance chart. So, oh, I had some anchors here that were pretty important. So I put an anchor at the top. I put one at like the big bottom. I put one at the like the low from June 23. But yeah, this is when I made my swap, and this was like one of the best swaps I ever made, like swapping this ETH to Link because it trended on ETH. And like I came back and like my 8K of Chainlink became like 40 grand or something. Like it was like a big swing.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I actually added a little more Link because I kind of just want to hold. And so like everything I say about Link, just take it with a grain of salt that like I had a big swap in like June of last year that kind of got me like invested in Link. So it's definitely like playing this range on the macro where it's going to start tightening up around these anchors and will likely trend to the upside at some point. It's going to take a while. I think Link, in reference to ETH, it might possibly take until like halfway through or like toward the end of this year to fully like pump up out of these anchors in reference to Ethereum. So like I see Link as kind of like a long-term play. It definitely has a lot of potential and they're doing a lot of great things. It is at some resistance here in reference to Ethereum. It's done really great. I see the money trending up. See that money flow coming up in a big way. And we do have a lot of support here. Like if Link does have a bad couple of months, there's a lot of, I think this uptrend from that started like last June should be able to hold us up and Link should be doing just fine. Even if people FUD it like through 2024. And then hopefully by 2025, it can conquer the VWAP, the anchor from this high from back in 2020, and Link should see some really good upside potential. As for the actual Link chart, we are over the 60 on the weekly again. There is a likelihood of a bearish divergence, but the money flow has trended in. We're over the big anchors. So it's hard to say like, oh, short Link, because we're over these anchors and like, I just personally would not put any kind of short call on Link, but if it does fall down and find some support on like, say this low, there's a low, let's do this anchor here. It has some support at like $16, so we could play up in this range, but maybe it could collapse down to the big anchors and find some support, some bigger support down at the $10 level. But I can't like put out a definitive short call when we're over anchored VWAPs like this. Like that would be irresponsible of me. So that's where I'm at with Link is like, I'm not really sure like how high it has to go, but in terms of ETH Link, it had a great like last 6 months or so. But there's like a bigger picture where we're like smashed in those anchors and it does seem like those anchors need to play out over like the course of 2024 before Link starts trending on ETH super hard.
Do you have any plans to leverage trade Link at all when you start back with Bybit?
If I was going to trade Link, I would wait for it to come down to probably this most recent anchor, and I'd probably do a long trade off of that. That's about it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd see some interest in taking a long trade, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I just got back on Bybit, so now that I have my Apollo ID, and it's been pretty great to be back on Bybit. I will admit that. So excited for you to get back in it.
Dude, I'm so excited. I really don't want to trade on some of these other exchanges that I tried out last year. I don't really have much of a desire to like shill exchange links. Like in general, I just want to trade on like the exchange that I like, which that was actually a big reason why I stopped trading was like how like why Bybit changing their policies and being more strict on U.S. users. It was an easy excuse for me to like take a step away from trading, but I also wasn't doing a lot of the work that I needed to do during that time. So it affected me greatly that Bybit changed their policy. But like what I needed to do is take the steps to get the certification and like do what I needed to do to keep trading. But I used things as an excuse to take it easy. And I'm sure that some of you guys probably felt that too. Like I know I'm not alone in that. But
Definitely.
That's huge. Yeah, spot
hopefully,
on.
hopefully by like I got the ID already. Like I have it on the website. It's just I can't use the image. Like I have to wait for it to be physically mailed, which totally sucks.
Yeah, it took a
So
while for me.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I was stuck waiting. I was like so bummed. But when you get that envelope and you see the wax stamp on it in the mail, you'd be like,
Mm,
damn, all right,
mm.
hell yeah.
Dude, I know, man. And I gotta like fight every urge not to like show. Maybe like in my orange Porsche video, like FG Risk Manager, I'll flash the Palau ID or some shit, you know.
Dude, just wait till you try to show someone that
Have it on a
ID.
link.
I literally like had to show someone just because I didn't have my driver's license, and it worked to like allow me to buy alcohol at a Red Wings game. But they looked through this book and they're like, "Where the fuck is Palu? Like, what is this?" And this lady had to call her manager and just was like, "No, it's legit." Like, it was the funniest thing, but it's a great conversation starter, man. I don't know. It's exciting. It was exciting for me to get mine in the mail, so I'm sure you'll feel the same once you have it in your hands. It's like, yes.
yeah, man. I think what they're doing is like revolutionary too, and it sucks that I can't. So I made a really cool short on it because like I was doing the research on it, and like I thought it was like revolutionary, and I think it deserves to be like world news. But also like I have to play things safe in terms of like liability and like staying out of trouble because I need to remain here for you guys and like for myself. So I'm not strong enough to take on like the U.S. government and like start shilling being a Palau resident and like spreading this message of like I want to be that like libertarian anti-government like kind of voice, but I'm still living in the U.S. I'm still like I haven't grown to that point yet. And I talked to my brother. I consulted him on that video, and he told me to remove that video, that short from my Instagram and my YouTube, and I agreed. I realized that it's just not quite my time to champion what I truly believe on like like exchange regulations and all these things. But that's just another thing I want to grow on is like perhaps traveling the world more, getting more familiar with the areas of the world that are more friendly for people like us, and not leading the charge because other people have done this before me, but I mean in my own community, like leading the charge in a sense of giving people like a hope that like if regulations in the U.S. only get worse, it's going to be important that like voices and people step up and like show that like you can still be a crypto trader, but you just have to do it's different. It's harder now. You know, it's getting harder. But we can't back down. We got to keep. But we also just got to play it safe. And so I removed that video, but I know that the right people saw it. And I definitely love my country. Like I love America, but I love like what made America. I love freedom and like liberty. I don't necessarily love our government, you know. So that's
It's
my
all good
take on all that
until
shit.
Palau starts their conscription for their national service.
Well, also, I didn't want to just bring a bunch of flopping gropers to the small island nation of Palau. Like, I realized if that reel actually popped off, then like their coral reefs and their little pools of like endangered jellyfish would be in danger because all these smelly crypto weirdos would start like swimming in the pools and making it stink like Vitalik Buterin, you know. So yeah, like to protect the small island ecosystem and my own skin and like you know I basically like removed that Palau ID content, but I know you guys saw what I said about it. You know what I think about it, and you know that I'm getting that ID. Um, so yeah, we'll be discreet about that. I know like we're talking about it in this stream, but we got to be discreet about that from now on. Um, and just until we're in the position to fight that fight, we got to just kind of lay low and be crypto traders fighting upstream, I guess.
No, I think it's a smart thing for you to have like done what you did, like honestly. So I definitely have respect for you and your decision to do that. And ultimately, I think it'll be a thing that will be better moving forward, right?
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about that because I don't really want to talk about it much more, but I love the conversation. Like it's out of basically just duty to my company and like the people in my life that I don't take on like challenges that I'm not ready to face. Even though I am like I have that in me to like I'm a fighter, you know. Um, so yeah, I want to do things as right as I can. I don't want to be on these like unregulated exchanges shilling the links. Like that to me is more dangerous than the Palau residency. So I'm just playing it a little safe. Like I know my brother's doing that stuff. Like he's always been more of an outlaw and like doing what he can to um, like share and talk about the exchanges that are being used in the current time. He's always never shied away from that stuff, but I think it's important that him and I have different strategies when approaching this stuff because if him and I act and move the same, then what happens to him also happens to me and vice versa. So, it's bad enough that there's two men in our family doing this shit. Like what if it all goes to shit? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm different than CF. Not to say that my way is like better because he does trades and I'm not doing trades right now but I know that it is all going to pay off for me, like personally, and it's been giving me a lot of time to like lay down knowledge about like my edge. I don't really feel like a need to like prove that I'm profitable because I have feats of strength. Like I succeeded in a previous bull run, and like I know my edge works. And so I've taken this time to like look to study the edge more to understand it better and to be able to teach it and like it's just giving me like the time I need to like really come at it and just hammer it when the time comes.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I might do some swaps and stuff, like some some turtle like moves, but yeah, when all that shit gets figured out, like I'm gonna be super excited to get into it. But I also know that like rushing processes is bad. Like I've actually always, just the nature of like my journey, like starting in reality, like with my fitness grind, not just coming back to the Cipher community as a blob who wrecked his life, but like fixing myself first and taking things slow before coming back. that was inspiring. And like I know that like by taking things slow and doing things right, yes, there's like less gratification in the short term, but every move I've taken has led to like very deep seated like senses of like reward in myself. Like every step that I've taken forward has really meant something. And like when I say I'm going to do something, like I actually do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the benefit of taking things slow and doing things the right way. And I'm blessed that like I have the feats of strength and the experience of like being like trading with my brother and like seeing him like actually do those big $1 million trades. And like I have the years of experience where like you guys know that I know my stuff. So I don't feel like this urge to like prove myself, which is dangerous as a trader, to go into the markets like trying to prove yourself. Like I want to avoid that entirely and like and come at the markets when the markets are ready for me, you know? So I think it's important to take things slow and do them right.
I think you're spot on, man. It honestly gets taken for granted when you earn things so quick. I mean, at least personally, like I feel like every time I've made fast money, it's never meant as much as it did if I just took my time and like took the small wins and let them add up over a duration. It's just so much more to see it grow as a whole. And I think, I mean, just take that throughout life and in general. Um, yeah, it makes sense, and you can see the wins stack up gradually over time. You know, and they mean so much more than to do it, you know, within an hour or a day or whatever. You know, so yeah, I find all that to be so spot on.
Yeah, I guess one example would be like Mike Perry with his fights. You know, he trains all year for like one moment, but then in that one moment everything really matters. And so if he's picking all these little fights with drunk guys at the bar and he's just, you know, if it, like when it comes down to that real fight, when it really matters, then he would fail if he wasn't like um you know, it's taking things slow doesn't mean you're not working hard every day, right? Like I've been here every day, like laying down um, like my wisdom with videos and shorts and talking with you guys, and like my life is certainly trading in the charts, you know. But yeah, this is a journey that is going to take me very far, and so like to get that big payoff, I know I have enough experience in the markets to know how big and how meaningful that payoff will be if I can really take it seriously and like train for it and prepare for it. And every day that I spend perfecting my edge and researching what I'm going to do when that live trading debut comes is going to benefit me. And it's going to benefit you guys too, because that version of flopping Groper that goes live like CF does and used to do all the time will be like a stronger, smarter flopping Groper, as opposed to a flopping Groper who needed to please people and jumped on with some shitter exchange and like just was trying his hardest to like prove himself like he's not like he hasn't earned his stripes already. Like that's not like who I am. That's someone else's struggle. That's not my struggle. What's asked of me is that I do things slow and methodical and correctly, and I show people like how hard it actually is to like get into doing this correctly, you know. It's never been my marketing strategy to say this shit is easy. It's a regulatory and legal and personal swamp that you have to like tread through just to get to the point where you're on the exchange ready to start slaying the markets. And like I think it's important that we're all working toward like getting to that point where we can execute when opportunities come. That way when like the big moves happen, we're ready to go, you know. So yeah, don't rush the process, guys. Like take it day by day, and like to be already trading, you don't need to prove anything to yourself. Just like keep perfecting your edge and just play that long game. That's the lesson to be learned.
It's a war of attrition.
It certainly is. let's not rush toward it, because then the market puts you on your ass. But yeah, with Link, I'm looking at this Link chart right now. That's pretty much my take on Link, what we were talking about earlier. Looking at the total crypto market cap, it's interesting how the money flow is like reduced a lot. It's also interesting how the 3-month is in this ascending, like we're barely even getting started. So there's a bit of hope here, but also the momentum on the 3-month is like not very high either. So yes, we had a change in direction and a sizable move up in that VWAP cross, which is technically good. The momentum isn't actually that high on this like huge time frame. Let me look at this on the BLX. Here we go. So it looks like from a lifetime standpoint, BTC is pretty much always positive blue momentum. So for like a big ass move, we would want to see the blue waves going back over 60 on like gigantic time frames like this. So from a Bitcoin and from a total crypto perspective, like this would imply that there is like a level to the pumpage that has not yet been unlocked on like a macro scale, which is exciting to like think about. Like we've definitely had this upward like change in trajectory, like a new bull market has begun. It's just like from a quarterly standpoint, it's only just begun, you know? That has interesting implications as to like how the psychology changes. Like as we approach the all-time high, it would make sense that as we approach that level slowly with these low levels of quarterly momentum, that the momentum slowly builds. And if we can get to a point where we go over the 60 threshold from a quarterly standpoint, we then start to unlock those big like these macro gigantic candles that happen in like that have happened traditionally in bull markets, like these big 3-month periods where we jump up like 140%, or that one right there at the start was like 220%. So there's a chance that once we get up to that point and retail starts coming in and like things happen, that we can start to see candles like that again. So that's my 3-month read of the total crypto market. From a monthly, we haven't clipped to the downside, but you know we are kind of pinching a bit, and we seem to be maybe bumping our head on the 60, but we can't make that call too soon because like look what happened over here. At this moment, back in 2020, this was precisely when the bulls took us over. You know that this shit was looking like it was clipping at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like when we were at this level back in 2020. But it just didn't play out like that. Like it turned up again and went over the 60 line, and we got a bull run off of that. So I'm not losing hope until like if a red dot forms, you know, it's still technically not, the hope isn't over. That would just imply that we get some dumps that cause that red dot to happen, which would like scare a lot of people. But I wouldn't count the monthly chart on the total crypto market cap out just yet, you know, until this looks like definitively bearish. Like there's still like a lot of hope here. Like this could easily, the RSIs are coming up. The VWAP, the yellow oscillator, sorry, is like still over 0, even though it is descending. There's also times where like the yellow oscillator will be descending and we're still going up. It's just diverging. So does anyone have any specific coins that you want to look at, or maybe just like anything about trading that you want to talk about, like risk management or anything like that?
Do you have any tips for growing a small account? Like leverage to position size wise?
Account size in theory shouldn't matter. Although that is kind of like naive to say, because someone with like a massive portfolio size could have like silly stop losses that would never get hit, and they could just use their like immense capital to like push a market up or down in like a big way, like whale shit. But if you had a small account, like you still gotta risk, like within your risk parameters. One thing about my strategy that I want to hammer down, I think, is I guess to answer your question is like you would grow a small account just like how you would grow a medium or normal sized account. You can't just like risk. You can't make big risks because you feel like you deserve to trade with more money. Like, you know, if you have $100, then you're gonna only have to risk a couple dollars per trade and like grow that over time. And I would just add that growth is like an exponential thing. Like 1% growth every day is a lot of growth, unless you're talking about like penile enlargement and like getting a boner. Like if your boner grew 1% each day, that would be very slow. But your crypto account growing 1% each day is like a huge deal. So like trust the 1% growth. But I would say that like a way that I'm going to be approaching risk moving forward with my edge here is like if it's a trending market and if the environment itself is in my favor and like I feel like I'm within my edge, I should probably be using 2 times or maybe even 3 or 4x risk. Maybe not 4x, but like 2 or 3x risk, risking like 2 or 3% of my total capital. But it depends on like where that comes with a grain of salt, right? Like we want to really know that we're in a trending market, that it is going up or down, that we are playing the right side. But I think that like you want to hit the market hard when the time is nigh. And then when it's not, the time isn't nigh, you may still see like your setup, like your edge may still give you opportunities, but maybe reduce risk during those periods. So like Merca getting chopped up in the sideways action, like if he was using half risk because he was deciding they're finding that he was in a sideways market, that would have reduced his losses substantially, but he would still have been trading. And you don't need a high win rate to succeed in trading. It's about the risk reward. Like if you were really good with risk reward, you could have like a 30% win rate. So I would say when it comes to approaching risk management, scale the risk based on how within your edge you are, I guess. Like the environment, if it's a pumping trending environment and we're like in the group nailing trade after trade opportunity, there might come a trade in there where you decide to use 3% risk and like it will pay off because like that's the moment that you do that, being able to swing and hit the market hard when it's needed and called upon is a really good way to become a winner. Like to become a champion, I've talked about this a lot with you guys in the chats, like champion mindset has a lot to do with diverging from convention and like perhaps breaking away from that rigid 1% risk mold that we put ourselves in, being a little more flexible with that, not only in the upside where like when we're risking a little more in good situations, but like risking less in bad. And I think that approaching the risk like that will allow us to like I think most of us have a control of decay, right? Like at worst, you guys are probably swiveling plus or minus 10% from your total capital as you're winning and losing these trades. So if you have a problem with growth, but decay is under control, which is where a lot of intermediate traders find themselves in, then that would imply that you have a problem with growth, right? So like the ways to tackle issues with growth is to hit harder on those winning setups when everything is screaming to you that this is like a prime situation for you to enter a trade. And by everything, I mean everything. And then also learning to let good trades ride. Like, and I know this doesn't have to do specifically with having a small account. This is like overall shit. but like letting that last 10% of a trade ride, especially in a trending market, I think is critical. Like taking all your profits off the table kind of like will prevent you from like lifting off. You'll always be like jumping and never, you'll be flapping your wings, but you'll be like always landing back on the ground like a chicken because you're a chicken, you know. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, hopefully that answered your question, bro.
Yeah, I've had a lot of really good experience by letting part of the position ride. Like it saved my ass in quite a few scenarios, especially with the vwap, because you're not always getting like the the 1 to 3, 1 to 4 risk reward that you might want. So sometimes you have to leave a little fat on the bone there to make sure that you're actually like getting up. Because one of the things that can happen with scaling risk that I've found, and this is kind of the quandary that I'm in, is that like when I was learning this scalping strategy here, is like I was risking just like peanuts just to kind of get the strategy underway. But then when I would scale up to like full position size, the losses there would basically erase like all of the work I had done before, and so that's where like now I'm basically every trade I risk the same now.
Well, why did you scale up though? Did you scale up because you were ready to scale up, or did you scale up because the market conditions dictated that you scaled up? That's two
Yeah,
very different things.
yeah, no, that's definitely where I fucked up. I mean, I scaled up because I was seeing a consistent win rate that that was like, all right, if I had been using full risk here, I would have some
Yeah.
decent account growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, things have definitely turned around. I started experimenting with much tighter stops the past few days. I mean, obviously it helped that we had a big pump, but I started experimenting with much tighter stops, which gave me a way better R multiple. And also, when I was wrong, I wasn't staying in bad trades for a long time. I was just out. But that's a good point. I hadn't thought about like scaling up when the market tells you to scale up.
Well, we've done we've discovered like we're discovering with this strategy when those times are, bro. So like don't beat yourself up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like every time we go through an environment in the market, we get smarter. We're getting stronger and better at this. So that's why it's important to snip those shit bags and keep the losses small so that you can trade again tomorrow, because like the you a week from now is smarter than the you today. And it's really important that you tee that motherfucker off and give him a chance to succeed, you know?
Yeah.
Big time, man. Big time. That's another reason why I love the intraday VWAP, because it gives you a very clear fair value line level to like be like, damn, I'm wrong. You know, I thought we were gonna trend under VWAP. Now we're above it, so I'm clearly wrong. And like, whereas before when I was a noob, I would maybe let things ride and like try to save that. Now I just snip that shit. And so there are famous traders who have like a 95% loss rate, but like the 5% that they do win are like monsters. So don't feel bad about snipping a shit bag.
Yeah.
When you're within your edge, things will stack up and accumulate over time.
Yeah, when I look back at my trade journal over the last like week and a half, even though my win rate was kind of tanking, I did notice that I was cutting bad trades well before my stop loss a lot, which definitely saved my ass.
Yeah, man. That's huge.
We say right, the way I tend to do it is I'll place my trade, and then once the price action's moved over what would cover my fees and maybe leave me with 1% profit, I'll move my stop to there. Like 90% of the time I will just get kicked out of the trade. Do you have a good suggestion on when to move that stop into place so that I don't get immediately kicked out all the time?
Yeah. So I wouldn't move the stop. I would do a TP at that. So cover the fees and cover the position like at that level. That's perfectly fine. But adjusting the stop, like the issue with what you just said there is like you're now moving your stop to a level that no longer is dictating when you're wrong. When the initial idea of your trade, like is wrong. Like you're moving it to some arbitrary.
Yeah, yeah. I think you've just leveled me up there. Actually,
Yeah.
I
Like
think that's just dropped a penny because price action's still moving within the correct parameters of where I wanted it to, but I've now moved my exit into that parameter.
yeah, but a TP at that level would make a lot of sense because you're unsaddling yourself with the risk. You're reaping the benefits of a winning idea by taking a little bit of profit covering the fees, especially if you did mark it in. That's not ideal, but if you did mark it in, I would certainly look to TP at like the first sign and cover
Yeah,
the fees and
generally
stuff.
I would
For sure.
mark it in, limit out.
For sure. But there is something to be said about in a trending market. Like, let's say, like you've let that 10%, the last 10% of a trade ride. I would then start roping in that stop loss. Like, if you've taken the majority of the profit on a position, and you're just letting some shit ride, then you are accepting the fact that okay, I'm gonna let the market kick me out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you're gonna stay
Yeah,
at
so
the party
10
until the
would be a
cops
good.
come. Stay at the
Yeah,
party until the cops come, basically. And at that point, with your last like say 10 or 20% of the position, then you start lowering the stop loss and letting the market kick you out at a certain point, but only after you've taken like like a couple TPs and like gotten out of that position. So that's where I would draw a line between moving your stop loss, like chasing your trade with your stop loss, and like just simply taking profit.
yeah, that's actually really helpful. Thank you.
I've been playing around with the trailing stop losses on Bybit. That can be really good. Like, so that way you don't have to be disciplined about it. You just like set your threshold, and once it hits a certain price, it could be like 3 times your risk reward, or it could be a specific level. Then the trailing stop loss kicks in, and then it just follows price up.
Yeah, I liked doing the conditional orders on Bybit a lot for things like that. I would set like a certain price, and when it hit that price, then it would go in. But on KuCoin, I can't find that. I can't find a way to set a conditional stop loss to come in at that price. So
Yeah,
I've had to move it manually.
yeah. Some exchanges don't seem to have it. Like sometimes I've been trading a little bit on MEXC just because of the fees, although. Actually, I had a question, Nick. I don't know if you want to speak on it because it's an exchange, and whatnot. But I noticed that like you and CF have both like said you won't trade on MEXC. Is that just a personal preference, or is there like, do you know something?
I don't know much other than a couple like trading influencers, like some bad things happened to them, like something happened like a couple weeks ago, but also I just took my brother's advice. He said don't trade on MEXC, like he just said not to do it, so I was like all right, I won't.
Yeah.
um
Okay.
so that's the truth. Is like I consulted my bro and he said not to. Like my bro told me like I should just wait for my Palau, like the Palau ID. So
Yeah.
and it just
Okay.
it gives me an opportunity to like focus on like the community and like my content and perfecting my edge anyways. So that's where I've kind of settled with all that.
That's helpful. Yeah. No, I saw him like in the MC Discord. He like someone was shilling it, and he was like, "I know everyone who runs these exchanges don't show that fucking." And so I was like, "Oh," and I like moved my stack off of it immediately. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Well,
okay."
it's I don't have
Kind of freaking
I
out.
don't even like yeah, it's like there's nothing that I know about MEXC that you guys don't. But my brother told me not to trade on MEXC. So maybe he
Cool.
knows something, but he would tell me if something like specific was wrong with the exchange. I know that much. But I guess I mean maybe he does know something that I don't. But I mean I'm just gonna follow his advice on that regard. Um,
Yep.
yeah. So we've gone about 2 hours now. It's 8:30 now. This was meaty. This was meatier than the last wizard meeting. I think it was like more powerful. Like we've shown in like literally 1 month, Like we've come insanely far in terms of like our knowledge and like how we're gonna use the edge moving forward. We covered a lot of topics such as like the price action itself, risk management, my situation, and so this was like way more rewarding than I even thought it was going to be. And I was very sick last couple days, and like even today when I woke up this morning, I felt like absolute dog shit. But I took this nap and like I woke up and like the thought of like having this conversation with you guys like breathed like power into me. Like I haven't coughed my entire time on this call. My nose has been a little sniffly. I like muted my mic a couple times to sniff, but that's about it. So thank you for like supercharging me up, and yeah, I'm glad we did this. So this was awesome.
Yes, sir. And you Giga Chad walk the entire time while we're all sitting on our ass, probably. I know I am.
Yeah, I'm kind of sweating. My pits are kind of sweating right now.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. This is great, Kyle.
I've been waiting to see if his face is showing signs of tiring or.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I'm smiling. I'm still happy. I've been hiking. You know, I've been doing a lot of conditioning. Like, I'm actually training with Mike Perry on March 1st. Isn't that sick?
Oh, it's super sick.
I'm gonna fly to Orlando. Gonna stay at some like just humble, cheap little place by his gym. I'm gonna train with him and Coach JT at his boxing gym. Maybe not spar with him, because I've only sparred like once in my life, and like Mike Perry's fucking scary, bro. But it would be cool if him or his coach like it just I want to like train.
I'm sure that
train
there
with
are
them.
some juniors in there you could train with.
Yeah. I'm just excited to like to see him, and I got a lot to say to Mike Perry because he really inspired me like in ways that like I can't even describe, bro. Like it's just that winning mentality, like just being around someone who works hard for things and then gets that payoff and actually gets the payoff. You see that shit, and there's like no way you can lose when you see someone else like exemplifying that kind of energy. So yeah, man, I owe it to him. He's like another person that I owe my energy towards. Like I want to be a good sponsor for Mike. And like God bless my brother for like collecting the pieces of the puzzle for MC for me to like walk this path. Like without my brother, how the hell would I have ever met Mike Perry and become friends with Mike Perry? Like my brother basically collected the puzzle pieces for us all to like to start winning. So I just got a lot of love for like my role models, man. Like my role models are people that I know in my life. I know most people don't have that. Most people's role models are like some celebrity or someone that they don't know personally. But like my role models are like my best friends. And that like is a big reason why I felt called to like be here for other people, you know? So I'm excited to go train with Mike, and then I'm gonna train down to Miami and have some fun in Miami for like 3 days. I'm probably gonna hang out with Evan Aldo and do like some cold plunging and shit, and it's just gonna be a good time, man. It's gonna be a much needed trip because I've been working pretty hard.
Joy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. I'm gonna go. You probably pass out on the couch, watch some YouTube or something. And you guys have a good rest of the night. If you don't mind, I'll upload this wizard meeting to the YouTube, and all the flopping gropers are going to love this shit. All the people who are regular people who watch the Super Bowl like normal people. But I appreciate you guys being like super nerdy with me, talking about trading when other people are like enjoying their lives. So God bless you guys and have a good one.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Later.
Peace out, dog.
See you.
Peace out.